بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وخاتم النبيين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بالإحسان إلى يوم الدين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'm your brother Abdul-Lateef from Arabic Virtual Academy as well as Abdul-Lateef.com. Today I want to address an issue. Another question came through and, Barakallahu Feekum. I just remind you all from the beginning, I've asked previously, when you're writing your questions, I don't mind the question. Just try to be respectful in the way that they're asked, But either way, the question with us today is about why I so-called dance around the issue of taking sides in situations or refuting individuals or answering questions about individuals and my position towards individuals. The best way I can explain to you my stance on all of this is to be honest with you. From what I've seen from my studies, this isn't our position. This isn't what we've seen from our scholars, and this isn't what we see from our scholars, even though people, how can I say, they push this stuff in front of us, so it looks like it. But the reality is that we see from the youth what we don't see from our scholars. What I see people doing now, I don't see to be correct or to be from what I consider to be our way. And Allah knows best, The issue is this. The offer or the fundamental principle is not refutations. That we're going to refute individuals, we're going to come at this one's neck because this one said this and this. Somebody put out a video or somebody put out an audio or do a lecture and we got, within 24 hours, got 2-3 videos up about all the mistakes and errors that they have in their video. I'd like to see one of you show me where this is the way of our scholars. Because me personally, I don't know of any that do this. That istijab, or that brushing that we find in the way of the shabab, of the youth. Or those people that are young, whether it's in their age or in their studies. This isn't what we find from our scholars. What we find from our scholars is this. Especially when these are individuals that have followings. Not like they're cults or anything along these lines. But they have a lot of people that follow their classes, follow their lectures, follow their lessons. Rather than pushing them further away. What you'll find is if you really take a good look, the scholars will grab them and put them under their wing. Contact them and explain to them certain things and ask them, okay, well, when you said this, what did you mean by this? Not just one, not just two, not just 3 of the scholars, but they'll spend long periods of time with these individuals, advising them, bringing them to their proofs and evidences so that they can understand why. Why do you think this is? Because our scholars are afraid of it? Of course not. We're talking about callers as opposed to our bona fide ulama. The reason is because the benefit is in leading them to that which is correct. Because they have a lot of people that when they're led to that which is correct, those people are going to follow them to that which is correct. So by making this correction of one individual, you can correct whole sections of the ummah. This is what you find our scholars to be doing. And when you look back, you'll find, look at any of the people that have so-called been thrown off it during our lifetime. When, as the brothers like to say, when the hammer drops, you hear, okay, the scholars have been advising him for 10 years. The scholars have been advising him for 8 years. The scholars have been advising him for 5 years. Never once during that time did you hear the scholars saying nothing, they're off and they're this. They even praise him because of the good that comes from them. But when nothing else can be done, and they see this and he's just not wanting to come off of that, not because he doesn't understand that this is where he wants to be, then the scholars come out and they say, well listen, beware of this individual, or even beware of this individual in this area. But I challenge all of you to come and bring me some proofs where someone leaves a video and then you have other people putting out videos saying, okay, they made a mistake in this, they made a mistake in this, they made a mistake, without even contacting their brother in Islam. Especially when they're more learned than them. And saying, listen, I noticed you said this. Can you explain this to me a little bit? The way I understood it was like this. Instead of saying, coming on and saying, did you hear what he said? He's astray and he's leading everybody else astray. And this scholar said this. And then we come at the end of the day to find out that one of two things. Either that person misquoted that individual completely, or didn't understand where that individual was coming from. Or even, and this is even more likely, that it's an issue that the scholars have been differing about over generations and generations and generations. And we've only gotten one side of the story. So because it goes against that one side of the story that we look at it, it's like written in stone. We say, okay, well listen, he's astray. She's astray. She's leading y'all astray. She's going against the way of Ahlul Sunnah, not realizing that there were a lot of scholars of Ahlul Sunnah that said something different. These issues need to be looked into before we start talking about refuting individuals and talking about individuals and putting out our positions. First and foremost, who are we to be putting out our positions on individuals? I'm not going to say who are we. I'm going to say I'm no one to be putting out my position on an individual. This is the job of our scholars. They're the ones that guide us in these situations. We're all tulab al-ilm, we're all learning. They're the ones that have the knowledge and the time to be able to look in the situation and not only weigh them against knowledge, because knowledge is one thing. That's what most of the tulab al-ilm are busying themselves with, getting knowledge. But there's a whole other aspect of how to apply that knowledge in individual situations using wisdom, which is something that you're going to find that a lot of the youth don't have. They're still trying to gain the knowledge part of it so that they can have something to put their wisdom with. Do you understand? And this is why you see from the youth that which you don't see from the seasoned scholars. This is what I see from our scholars, and this is why I don't really engage in a lot of that. Yes, you're right. I skip over the questions that come in with that. Even when you guys write on the social media, whether it be Facebook or Twitter, LinkedIn, all the rest of those questions, I skip right over them. Because one, I don't believe that's my position. Two, I don't believe that it's right for us to be engaging in those types of conversations, especially when we understand that these are our brothers and sisters in Islam, and our job should be more about advising them than warning against them. You understand? I'm not going to sit and make a bunch of comments about this one. It's something that I heard that he said, or even that I heard him say and I have no idea why he said it. And I'm going to come on and make a video, well listen, I was asked a question about Falan, and when he said this, and what is our position? Listen, this is not correct. If it was correct, you see our scholars doing it. Being as though you see our scholars being patient with individuals, and calling them to that which is correct, and contacting them. I mean, they're contacting people that aren't nowhere near on their levels. But because of the benefit that can come from advising these individuals, they reach out to these individuals. And they're patient with these individuals for years, a lot of times. And then if it's necessary, they come out and they warn. They refute. And even when they refute, they don't usually refute the person, they refute the issue. So all of this name calling a lot of it doesn't go on. Unfortunately, nowadays you're going to find some of the people that we call scholars doing this, name calling and this, that, and the other. But generally, this isn't the way that we've seen the scholars acting in the past. Generally, this isn't the way we see the scholars acting today. So this is a general understanding of why I don't engage in these things. I don't see them to be from our way. I see them to be from a way other than that which we are learning and have learned from our scholars. And may Allah Ta'ala help us as an ummah and allow us to be of those people who return to that which is correct and leave off all of this, I guess I should say, stuff that does nothing but spread enmity and hatred amongst our ranks. آمين آمين اللهم آمين سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وأشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك وأتوب إليك